Oh, hi there. So you've got the inspiration, whether it came from a movie, a sitcom, a cursed TikTok, your brain, a Pinterest mood board, and now you're thinking, what kind of D&D character is this? Well, welcome back to the D&D guide for the glittery player, where we build not for efficiency, but for roleplay. In this video, we're going to turn vibes into adventurers. We're going to be talking about how to pick a class, species, and background that makes sense for your inspiration. We're here to ask what makes this character interesting to play. A class isn't just about what your character does, but it's also about who they are. Your species gives you some flavor, and your background gives you some context. So let's break it all down. Full disclaimer, I can also be an optimizer or min-maxer. It's just that usually I don't use it in the capacity of building a whole character just based on a specific mechanic or build, and we'll talk about that in a future video. Number one, pick a class because it makes sense, not because it's powerful. Forget about the tier list, forget about all of that. Let's think, who is this character and why would it make sense that they will pick this class? Are they a hot mess? Are they a tactical queen? Are they musically inclined? What class makes sense for this inspiration? I've been mentioning my finance babe girly inspiration, which could have totally been a fighter, but I wanted to place her as someone that does CrossFit, hot yoga, Muay Thai, maybe one of those weird classes that is like spinning, but it looks like a club and people look like they're on heavy drugs, something like that. So for someone that does all of this, in my head, a monk made more sense than a fighter. Let's imagine that you're creating a character that goes on an absolute anger debacle management issue anytime that someone criticizes their skincare routine. That's obviously a barbarian. So choosing a class, not necessarily based around stats, but based on the story you have in your mind and how this character became powerful, is usually a lot more fun. Also, if you think about their personality, that also makes it more enjoyable. Remember that silly idea I mentioned in the previous video about building a warlock that thinks that they're a cleric? You can make a crazy build like that because both classes are pretty much built into this concept of them receiving their powers from a higher force. So how you execute it is very different when we're talking about a cleric versus a warlock. So again, it's all about the personality and the story that you want to tell. From my Rapunzel idea, some of the key points of the character based on the movie: she heals people, like I said. She's obsessed with stars. So let's break that down. Number one, someone that can heal, which takes me down to spellcasters pretty much. And healing spellcasters, we have Pallies, cleric, druids. There's other subclasses that can also do some healing, but I don't want the healing to be like a secondary trait. I want healing to be one of the main traits for this character. And like I mentioned, she's obsessed with the stars. Because of the whole stars and constellation connection, I decided to go with stars druid. First of all, it cannot be more specific with stars than this subclass. Druids can do a lot of healing, so that connects with the character. After level 3, you can also use your starry shape to heal people. Like, it's absolutely perfect. So I can literally imagine her, like her hair glowing and healing people. It's just absolutely perfect. And even before level 3, I can just say that her wild shapes are just very creative way that she uses her hair to do stuff. Like you're a spider, maybe you're just using your hair to like climb and move around. So I just thought it was like the perfect connection. Stars druid, Rapunzel. So now that you have your class in mind, it's time to pick the perfect vessel for the chaos you're about to unleash in the world. Which I mean your species. In 2024, if we compare it to 2014, the necessity to pick your species, back then called race, based on specific abilities that you wanted to increase and a lot of those type of advantages has been reduced to a certain extent. Of course, you can still pick a species because you want to get some extra spells, you want to get proficiency in certain saves, you want to fly or have a breath weapon like in the case of Dragonborn. So yes, there's still a lot of mechanical advantages, but it's less hard. I want to have a higher charisma, or I want to get a higher dex, or whatever it might be. It's now more about the vibes and the aesthetic. Yes, there's mechanical benefits, but it's not as heavy as in 2014. So when you're picking your species, you need to think, how does this play into the story that I want to tell? So forget about just thinking about stats. I mean, this is not Pokemon. So a good idea is to think, how does this character move through the world? What specific things about being this specific species resonates and can make people connect with them and their story as well? So now I'm about to shoot your way a few ideas of how I think a species mixed with a specific class or subclass makes for a fun build. A halfling barbarian. She's small, she's angry, and she is unhinged. I want to imagine this character just going into every single combat with a very big, deep scream of rage and then climbing on the back of her enemies and just biting them. 10 out of 10 will definitely party with her. An elf warlock. Everyone expects elves to be ethereal and elegant and classic. But she got bored of the Feywild and decided to join an MLM that ended up just being a pact with an archfey. And now she's going through the world with absolutely no plan and way too much power. A goliat sorcerer. Big guy, tiny patience. Everyone expects this person that looks like a tank to be a barbarian, a fighter, or something like that. But he's a sorcerer, the type that only casts spells that have a lot of glitter, prismatic energy, and look great for Instagram. He wears a cape with rhinestones, and he doesn't like being touched because he's too sensitive, and when people touch him, he gets overwhelmed. Species should either enhance your story and your stats or completely defy them and create a complete chaos of things that don't make any sense. So there are no wrong answers, they're just boring answers, and we don't do boring here. You don't need to be tall to be strong. You don't need to be scary to be respected. So at the end of the day, your character can either embrace or just fully defy whatever it's the norm for a specific species and still make it interesting. Now, background. So the background, it's the hook to the story of your character. It's like the pilot episode. So because we want to make sure that it connects with the rest of the story, it should not be boring unless it's boring on purpose. Your character is not defined by their background. And I want to make a clear case that I'm talking right now about backgrounds and not backstory. In 2024, I personally have felt that backgrounds are a little bit limited in the sense that because they're now tied to certain abilities that increases, you might go for a specific background just because it gives you the extra punch or mechanical strength that you need for what you're thinking about. But it might not be connected with the idea that you have for your character. It can be something that they are running away from, or it can be the main reason why they became an adventurer. What I mean by this is, if you just decided to pick farmer just because you wanted the tough origin feat, you can literally say that your character is just the son or daughter of farmers. But this is not what they've been doing for the last 5 years. So don't get boxed by it. I'll give you some examples. Let's say that you pick the noble background. Amazing. She comes from a rich family that it's now bankrupt. And it's lying to herself about being poor now. Let's call it medieval delusion. Criminal background? Sure, let's imagine that they were stealing because they needed to eat. But now your bard is really trying to change around their life and they're trying to become famous. So yes, they used to be a criminal, but that has nothing to do with the path that they're currently on. Use your background to explain how your character got to where they are today. But if it doesn't really vibe, you can just modify it and change it. As someone that usually plays high charisma characters, I know I could have fooled you. You would be surprised with the amount of criminals and charlatans in my back pocket. So sometimes I just give them that background and then don't mention it ever again. Number 4, let's make it all work together. Okay, so you pick your class, you have your species, and you have your background. Now let's throw all of those ingredients in a cauldron and let's make sure that it actually makes sense. So let's go with my Rapunzel. First, as a class, we pick a stars druid because I really like the connection with constellations and I need her to be able to do some healing. Second step, species. Like I said, usually try to go for something that either matches your aesthetic or helps you defy stereotypes. In my case, I decided to go with Asmar. If you've seen the movie, you know that there's a big connection with her having been born from like a magical flower, having been in the possession of her mom. So I think that kind of connects with the spark from the upper planes. Then as an Asmar, there's certain mechanics that she has, like being able to cast the light cantrip. After level 3, she can cast this whole transformation aspect. She can use healing words, so I can say that this is her healing people through her hands. I just feel like Asmar fully matches the vibe that I'm going with this Rapunzel. Now for the background. Hermit, it was just like the easiest one to pick, but at the time I already had two hermits, including a Snow White. So I decided that I wanted to change that, and I decided to go with Scribe. If you look at the movie, while Rapunzel is locked away, she does a lot of things. She paints, she writes, she journals, she does crafts. So I wanted to say that while she was locked away, she spent a lot of time journaling and writing, and I just really wanted proficiency in cartographer tools. And for the stats that I ended up with, Scribe was the perfect match. So that's what I decided to go with. Vibes, theme, backstory, we're ready to go. So here's what we have. Stars Druid, because constellations are kind of her thing. Asimar, because glowing hair, it's kind of cool. And then we have Scribe, because I want her to have the nicest handwriting anyone has ever seen. And that's your reminder. Build something that is not only just fun to play at the table, but someone that you're obsessed with. So drop your weirdest, more unoptimized builds in the comments. I want to read the most unhinged disasters are chaotic and just a mess and broken to play with. Just tell me, just feed me with that. So now for video 3, stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the difference between backstory, background, and personality, and how to make sure that you don't bore your DM with a 15-page long backstory and a personality that is as bland as wet white bread. And I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Not what Reddit said, not what Reddit says, not what the meta demands. She's super sweet. She has a weapon that's cast iron pan thing. Like I said, you can either fully define